Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City.
Do you have any fresh injury concerns ahead of tomorrow off the back of the Bolton game?
No fresh ones, no. Again, we come through the game okay, so there's no worries.
We mentioned on Thursday that Gareth Evans was close to making the bench, but he wasn't again on Saturday. Is he any nearer making the squad?
Yeah, now Gaz is available for selection fully. It was kind of a last minute decision on the last game, but yeah, so Gaz is ready to go. Yeah.
And what about Jordan Stevens? He's been looking lively coming off the bench. Is he close to a start at all? What's your thought process behind that?
Yeah, obviously Jordan's a good player who's made an impact, especially in the last game. Spoke a little bit previously about him needing to show more in games, and he's aware of that. And I think he sort of gave a good account for himself in the last game where, I can remember, a couple of deliveries that he put in were really effective, and John's got to keep working hard for these moments and that consistency, and he's still finding out the way that we play, and again he's got loads of potential.
I was going to mention you've got a bit of a selection headache between Andy Cook and Danny Rowe, haven't you? They both keep doing really well in games, but I guess it's a good thing to have selection headaches all over the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, and you spoke about Jordan there, and he's had to work hard for his opportunities within the game time. So we've asked a little bit more of him, but it's quite hard for him to perform, not getting as many minutes as he may like, and he's got to keep on pushing, and players like Cookie and Rowe are, again, not doing themselves any harm. The scoring goals are making an impact. Cookie, Andy Cook, he sort of was a battering ram for most of the game, and obviously we brought a Rowe on who come on and won the game for us. So again, it's a nice thing to have where you've got two people and two attacking players who can score goals. And they've both got different strengths. So yeah, it is a headache trying to pick the right one.
How do you coach the mental side of that to keep them happy and say, look, we're going to use so and so this game because we think the strengths play better against the opposition? How do you go about that off the field, the players?
Just generally conversations with them both before the team would go out, and there'd just be reasons for why they've maybe missed out on that game, but how it's been happening at the minute. In the last few games with Andy was obviously couldn't play against his parent club and things like that, but they've kind of been in one out scenario, which has kept them really fresh, and they're still playing a game a week, and we're still getting the best out of them. But again, that communication side of it and making sure that they know, when they're playing and maybe why they've missed out is so important, because I think they're both still developing and learning from each other's games as well. When potentially Rowe sees Andy pressing and making it really hard, and we've seen a difference in Danny Rowe in the way that he tries to win the ball back and works for the team. So it's a really good competition.
And I guess it helps with the positive results, doesn't it? That they just want to be a part of something positive, and they can see their teammates, whether they're scoring goals or say in the goalkeeping case, keeping clean sheets, rather than having someone sat on the bench and things not going quite right and them thinking, I could do a better job. Yeah,
and the beauty of it maybe is they're both getting opportunities to play. We potentially take one off for another after 60, 65 minutes, even when the other player is starting. So there's enough minutes for them to make an impact in the games that have been, and we're just looking forward to them, possibly playing together as well one day if we maybe change formation. But again, they're really developing and starting to know what we want from them in and out of possession.
And going back to Saturday, last minute equaliser, I'm sure you heard Andy like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Must have felt like a win with that. What's the mood been like the last few days and the quick turnaround going into tomorrow?
You can't really enjoy the draws and the run and the win or anything like that. You just got to crack on. Maybe that feeling lasts for 10 minutes after full time, but then you're back to work. You're focusing on the next game, and we were working, Saturday night and Sunday to prepare for Newport, and then today we've obviously got to put the work into the players and and help and support them into the next game. So again, it's just really fast at the minute, and it was an unbelievable feeling. But when we got the equaliser, but it's quickly and you've got to move on quick.
On the flip side of that, though, the quick turnaround. Going into, we talk a lot about Saturday, Tuesday. When you're in such a good run, that almost is a positive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice when you're on a run, because the games just come one after the other, and there's kind of now sort of a routine of how we operate, and the players know the structure of what it looks like when you've got Saturday and Tuesday games, and they sort of become, that routine's maybe become quite normal for them at the minute. It just limits the time that you can possibly have them on the field for longer periods, but again, we've got to try and be cute with how we deliver things and make sure we get our messages across.
I was going to just touch on that. How do you deal with the recovery in such a small space of time? What would you do differently in terms of, if it's Saturday to Saturday? Is it cramming a load of things in and preparation in that such small space of time?
Well, you've obviously got a lot more sessions where you can put more through the players in terms of the loads, and obviously the contact time that you do have with them. At the minute, it's kind of a shortened window where you can actually put a lot through the players, and it's more walkthroughs and tactical stuff to make sure that when they go into the game, they know what their role is. But like you say, it is a quick turnaround, and we're not getting as much time on the grass. But in a normal week, it's a lot more relaxed, because you get more time with the players, and you get to work for longer periods of time.
And it's an away game tomorrow. We spoke on Thursday, didn't we, about the good form at home. How do you approach away games? Is it any different, or does it just literally come down as simple as who the opposition is?
It's just common for teams when they're playing away to, when you go into a ground you've potentially not played in the past, and things like that. These are sometimes things that go in the home team's favour. We just treat it as a normal game. We'll travel down to the hotel, and we'll go through our preparations again, and make sure that when we go out there, we're ready to go, and irrelevant if we're at home or away.
And playing at the Cardiff City Stadium tomorrow instead of at Newport, a little bit different to maybe some of the places you've experienced in League Two. Has that come into your mind at all, or is it something that you're just kind of treating as just another game?
Just another game. The pitch is obviously going to be in really good condition, and that's it suits us probably with the in possession stuff, allowing us to keep the ball better, and the surface to allow us to not have to check all the time when you're in possession. And what I mean by that is, when the pitches are bad, it's hard to get your scans in and things like that, because the ball's bouncing all over the place. So what you'll find is a nice pitch allows players to drift into different positions and do the work a little bit more to get on the ball and scan and check, like I say. So I'm hoping it'll help us in terms of the in possession work and allow us to play our game and control the game, because I don't think we did that against Bolton well enough. So that's something that may work in our favour, yeah.
And the lads, do they echo that, or can you sense a bit of excitement around the squad as well about playing in Cardiff tomorrow?
No, I've not heard anything from the players at all. I think they just treat it as another game to go and hopefully win and put in a good performance for everybody. And
speaking of Newport, they're 4 points ahead of you in the table, a little bit inconsistent recently. What have you made of them?
Obviously, a very good side. They've got a way of playing. They've got they can play out from the back. They can mix it up. They've got two good strikers. They've got players who are on the bench who can come in and make an impact. We've watched them and we've been impressed. So I think, maybe that they've dipped in form, but I think we can't go away from where they were before they sort of found themselves in this dip of form. But they're a really good side, and we're expecting a tough game again.
And your side have played, got some good results against sides who are near the top. I'm thinking of like Cheltenham and Tranmere. Are the players more up for these kind of games, or does it add something when you know you're playing a team above you in the league? What does that do mentally going into a game?
It's hard to say. It's hard, you can't really put your finger on anything that's changed from a player's point of view because you're not in their mind at that time. I don't see a difference in terms of the warm-ups and the preparations that the players are less focused than they would be against maybe somebody who was at the bottom of the table. I think I've mentioned it before with professional athletes and footballers. Their mindset is so crucial, and they've got to treat every game the same.
Thanks for your time and patience with the internet connection there, Conor, and good luck for tomorrow.
Thanks very much. Cheers for that.
Cheers.
Hi, Conor.
Hello.
Obviously, as we said, it's at the Cardiff City Stadium, which technically, I suppose, means both teams are away from home. Can you use that to your advantage at all?
Yeah, kind of. I think I mentioned it earlier, when you've got that familiarity with your venue and you play there all the time, you can start to understand the ins and outs of it. If it's a narrow pitch or a wide pitch, or maybe a long or short, or the wind in certain halves, and maybe there's sunlight in some parts as well. I think if you know your pitch and you know how you can use those even better. So for them to go into a new stadium is like us, like I say, it's going to be a away game for both teams. Just we're travelling a lot further.
On the travelling, we make a lot of the distance at Bradford, particularly, have travelled recently, and staying in hotels. The players aren't in their own beds at the current climate as well. What physical differences does this put on the players in terms of all the travelling? Yeah,
it's a good question, and it's something that happens in football clubs where you have to know about it, you have to monitor it, and if players travel over a certain distance, and you've got to understand that the guys will be getting back really late on after the game in the morning, and we've got to take that into consideration in the future training sessions. So it does have an impact, but as a club and as staff, we've got to try and manage that as best as possible.
And so far, it doesn't seem to have had any effect in terms of results.
Not so far, no. Again, we've got a way of working, a way of travelling, and how it works, and people know the ins and outs, and it's important to get that routine. And so far, it's done as well, and so we're not gonna change it.
And you mentioned routine there. That's something particularly retired professionals that often say that's the thing they miss. It's key for a team and the players to have that routine.
Yeah, I think for their own mind, it's like anything. When it becomes more natural to you and you're doing it all the time, you'll do it sort of automatically, and you don't have to think too much about where have I got to be and times and stuff like that. It's quite a simple procedure where they know where to be at certain times and they know what it's going to be. So there's no surprises, if you like.
Okay, thanks very much. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks a lot.
Conor, you were talking about perhaps getting more control in the game. I mean, you saw that a bit on Saturday. Was that? Do you think that was a little bit of fatigue creeping in? The passes going astray and perhaps sort of good opportunities. Not making the most of opportunities, particularly when there's a chance to attack and counter and what have you.
Yeah, you can put it down to that, physical, mental. When players start getting tired, they start making poor decisions, and you see that. And potentially looking back at the game, we had some really good moments where we could have been overloaded on their backline with 3v2s, 4v3s, but we didn't quite have that concentration and that final pass to make it happen, or even we didn't even have that extra pass to make it a simpler one, the next one. So we saw that, and I think everybody on the day saw that we looked deadly on the counter, but I just think that it just didn't happen on the day with the quality, and we've got to ask questions of why that happened, and rightly so. You've asked about fatigue and mental fatigue, and I think that definitely played a part, because what you've seen over the past few weeks is those players providing those passes at the right time, at the right speed. So I think it's a good point.
Is that as we've talked about before, the games stacking up as they are? It's inevitable. People are going to get a little bit jaded at times, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%, and other clubs will be in the same boat. But I think as well, again, we've got a really good squad, and if we need to change things up, I feel we can. But again, the players have been outstanding. The ones that have started and the ones that have come off the bench. So we've just got to keep that momentum going in that form, and keep everybody grounded and hard working.
As you say about the players coming off the bench, I mean, if you are going to utilise the squad and perhaps freshen things up in this game or the next game or whenever, you need them players coming on and making an impact, isn't it? And because they're staking a claim then, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like anything when players find themselves on the bench. What do you say to them? When you go on, you've got to perform, and you've got to go and earn your shirt. You've got to go and make a difference. You've got to be brilliant around the changing room. You've got to be good in training. All these things add up, and when they go out there, they've got to try and be the best player when they come off the bench. And I think what the players have done, they've found themselves in when we've been leading in the games, and by the way, they've put in a terrific team performance in by them individuals doing a job on certain players, and maybe having that time to speak to them on the sidelines for them to know how we're going to change the game and how they're going to impact it.
And presumably, as I say, with more substitutes this season, it's becoming a real part of the game, isn't it? Knowing when to put a couple on at a time, when to do it in terms of personnel, and rather than perhaps just bringing someone on for 10 minutes just to give someone else a breather. It's a real sort of tactical move now, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a lot of options. You can bring on different positions. You've got obviously a few windows that you can use. You can't just keep bringing on one at a time. You've got to strategically plan who's coming on at what minute, but you've also got to be clear. Be clear in what you see, and if you see players out there who are maybe looking fatigued, like you've mentioned, or mentally fatigued, you've got to be mindful to maybe make changes which come away from how you've planned. So yeah.
I mean, when you go into the game, do you tend to sort of have an idea of looking ideally to bring so and so and so and so on after 58 minutes, 61 minutes, someone else after 72? Have you sort of got it, sort of jotted down? If everything goes to plan, this is what we'll do. Yeah,
we've mentioned it in the past around capping minutes and things like that, and this is no different. But again, as if it's 0-0, if it's you're losing 1-0, these things can potentially change. But as long as you're prepared as well as you can, and the risk involved in playing certain players over certain minutes, then it makes it easier for us to try and change it. But again, we won't put anybody's safety in jeopardy where they've been told they can only do 45 and they're doing a full game. But you've got to be adaptable to the game circumstances and the situation where you might have to make different changes for different reasons, and you get injuries and things like that. So but you do try and plan ahead.
Is it something as a coach you're pleased to see more substitutes now, or would you ideally like it as it was before with perhaps the maximum of 3?
I quite like it, because I think you can change the game a little bit more, gives you a little bit more options in terms of you can make doubles. You've got players on the bench in different positions, but again, using the 5, you can do a lot more things with it than the 3, because you're limiting yourself into formations you can change to and personnel you can bring in. So I think it's been a good addition, but we'll see what happens with it.
And as you said earlier about obviously Danny Rowe and Andy Cook, and about potentially playing them together. And obviously, I think they were on about 10 minutes together on Saturday. I mean, obviously you've got the capacity with Danny to play him in that 10 role as well, haven't you?
I think Danny could, against certain teams, play that role. But again, I think we are mindful and we are clear in what teams we can play against. Then what Danny could play as a 10, because you don't want him tracking back, taking away all his strengths and keeping him away from the box in high areas. So it's got to be the right game at the right time for Danny if he's going to play in that position, I think.
And last one, obviously, about the pitch, and you were saying about how what a great surface it's going to be to play on, and the players would be looking forward to that. Has it sort of changed your preparation in terms of, when you were thinking, oh, we've got Newport away coming up, we know it's going to be a real battle down there because it's going to be a slog on that pitch. Has it sort of changed your thinking a little bit towards the game?
Yeah, because you can't play the football that you'd like to on Newport's pitch, because there's too much risk. You're relying on players to pass and receive at high quality, and when you have maybe a pitch in that condition at this moment in time, things can quickly go wrong and mistakes start to happen. So playing on a better pitch allows you to be a little bit safer when you are passing and receiving and playing and things like that. So I think it definitely does come into consideration. Yeah.
Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City.